and welcome to Shannonville Motorsport Park and the Pepsi Superbike Challenge presented by Castrol Canada. Hello everyone, I'm Pat Gonzalez with Craig Hill for our final motorcycle race of the 1988 Castrol road racing season.
And what a season it's been, Pat. 5 races, 4 different winners. The only repeat winner this year has been Goodfellow. And in the 750 production race, which we have coming up right after this opening, Michel Mercier has pretty well wrapped up the season.
Well, we talked about the 5 previous races. Coming into the 6th and final round, there are 4 riders who have a shot at that #1 plate that right now belongs to Michel Mercier. Ruben McMurder heads the point standings with 50. He won the season opening event at Saint-Air, but since then he's had an up-and-down season, including a crash here at Shannonville while leading in round number 3. The #2 ranked rider right now is Steve Dick. He won the last race here at Shannonville, and he'll be carrying Suzuki's hopes for the championship. Sitting in the 3rd place spot is Gary Goodfellow on the Honda. Gary won the qualifying race in the dry here yesterday, picking up the Michelin pole position and the all-important 2 points. And the other rider who has a shot at the #1 plate is Tommy Douglas on his Yamaha. He qualified on the pole at Calgary, had a good run there, finishing in 3rd. So those are the 4 riders coming into the showdown here at Shannonville who have a shot at the #1 plate and Canadian Superbike Championship.
Sure, but the #1 plate isn't everything, you know, Pat. We've talked all year long about that $500,000 that's available in prize and contingency money. And you know, if we were to take one guy, the guy that's been the hottest, Gary Goodfellow, over the last 3 weeks, he's won in Japan, he won the last race at Westwood, and this guy could collect an awful lot of money today. For the 600 production, he could walk away with $8,700, and he's wrapped that one up. So that's the first bit of money that he's got. Pro 750, he's got the pole for it. Although he can't win the championship, he can still run up there well enough in order to pick up a good piece of change there. But in the Superbike race, this guy could win $11,700 by winning the race today and that grand whopping $25,000 check. But you know what? The elements are against everybody today, and I don't know about the riders, but I'm going back to the broadcast booth where it's warm and dry.
Well, the riders will have to contend with some pretty bad conditions here on the racetrack. It's been raining off and on. It's drizzling right now. Just about all of the Superbike teams have put on the rain tires. But you know, the end of the season also means the graduation of some of our top amateur riders into the professional ranks for next year. So in 1989, we'll see these top amateur riders as rookie pros. Number 26, the likable Lindley Clark from Barrie, Ontario, won several amateur championships this season. Number 13, Yves Brisson of St. Catherine, Quebec, won the amateur 600 production title. And the 19-year-old from Quebec, Jacques Gannett, will be one of the top rookies next year. Those are some of the riders we look ahead to seeing next year in our coverage. But this afternoon at Shannonville, the focus, the excitement, you can feel it building. The battle for the #1 plate and the Canadian Superbike Championship is on the line. The rain continues to fall, and we'll be back with highlights of the Pro 750 production race. We'll then have coverage of the Pro Formula 2 final featuring Italian star Stefano Carracci and Canadian champion Jonathan Cornwell. And then we'll have our Superbike feature. We'll be back at Shannonville in a moment. Shannonville Motorsport Park and the Pepsi Superbike Challenge. The motorcycles are on the starting grid for our Pro 750 production final. Michel Mercier has already wrapped up the championship, but there's a lot of riders looking to move up in the point standings that'll decide how a lot of that year-end contingency cash and prize money will be decided. Here's Craig Hill.
And that's the front row of this very important money race here today. And as Pat said, the new champion is Mercier, but he's going to have to start at the back, and it's going to be some struggle in this rain to move up.
Duhamel, a big wheelie away quickly. Number 315, Griffiths, dives in, but it is Goodfellow through on the inside into 2nd, Griffiths 3rd. And there's number 1, Mercier, up to the outside. He'll pass about a half a dozen riders going through turn 1. So Mercier, who started at the back, is already charging up through the field. Very difficult here on this opening lap as the riders test the traction, try to keep those motorcycles as upright as possible through the turns. Miguel Duhamel charges into that lead aboard the lime green Kawasaki, and he's opened up a pretty good cushion on Gary Goodfellow, who runs in the 2nd place spot. The battle now is for 3rd between number 2, Tommy Douglas, who's moved ahead of 101, Steve Dick, and then Mercier, number 1. What a charge he has put on here on this opening lap. He's all the way up into 5th and moving, and now Mercier has moved around Steve Dick. Michel Mercier, who won this championship at our last event out at Westwood, has already climbed up into the 4th place spot, and he continues to charge up onto the leaders. And what a job these riders are doing here, Craig, in these very difficult conditions.
Well, rain's a great equalizer for everybody out there, Pat. And as you're well aware, these guys are running on stock street tires. They're not as sticky, and they don't have the rain grooves in them that a full rain tire has, so they have to be very careful out there. They get into some puddles, they could be in trouble, but Mercier's doing an outstanding job right now.
Number 2, Tommy Douglas challenging Gary Goodfellow, number 11 for second, and Tommy Douglas will take over the 2nd place spot at the end of the straightaway. Going into turn 11, Goodfellow being pushed back into 3rd as the riders push it to the limit here on the opening lap. There is Douglas, your new 2nd place rider, and there is 3:15, Mike Griffiths. He pushed it a little bit too long at the end of that back straightaway. He has got it turned around, but Mike Griffiths, 3:15, had to go down the escape road. The race now for 3rd place between 11 Goodfellow, number 1 Michel Mercier, and right behind him, that is the number 99 machine of John Ramsey. Here is a rider calling it quits. That was 16 Eric Viel. Rider number 35 battling a little further back in the pack is Australia's Ian Buster Saunders. It is Duhamel, followed by Douglas, then 11 Goodfellow, number 1 Mercier in the 4th place spot. And then rider number 99, John Ramsey on the Honda RC30, back in the 5th place position.
Pat, it's interesting that Goodfellow is elected to ride his Pro 600 bike. He probably thinks that the thing is more manageable in the rain, but Mercier's in the process of running them down pretty fast right now.
Into the hairpin, Mercier moves up to the outside, but Goody will hold on to that 3rd place position. Now as they go out of the back straightaway, Mercier's 750 Suzuki should be the faster machine, and he has moved around Goodfellow on the back straightaway. So Michel Mercier in a 3rd, and oh, Mercier has crashed. He appeared to lock up the front wheel. The Pro 750 production champion goes for a terrifying tumble at the end of that straightaway. The motorcycle still sliding, but there is Mercier. He has got up from the crash, but a tough break for Michel.
Oh, that's a tough way for a champion to end the series, Pat. He clinched the Pro 750 production crown at Westwood, and I know that he really wanted to do well at this, his home track.
Number 87, Norm Murphy, and 73, Steve Crevier battling for 10th.
And there's Mercier back on his Suzuki, Pat, with the race order Duhamel, Douglas, Goodfellow, Ramsey, and Eddie Brunet. In 6th is Steve Dick, followed by Royer, Cooper, Pilon, and Crevier. And you know, Pat, Crevier has done well lately. He joined the series late and was a surprise winner at our last Pro 750 production race at Westwood.
Well, Crevier was a big winner there, but obviously the conditions here at Shannonville not to his liking this afternoon. You watch the lead battle between number 2, Tommy Douglas, who's trying to chase down the current leader, 97, Miguel Duhamel. They're just a few bike lengths apart as they come back into the famed Allen's Corner here at Shannonville Motorsport Park. That very tight left-hander, there's Duhamel just ahead of number 2, Tommy Douglas, as they go back and forth. 35, Australia's Ian Buster Saunders having a good run here with number 10, David Grummett, who has moved around into the 13th place position. So great racing all the way back through the field despite the bad track conditions. And there is Goodfellow, 11. He is off the racetrack, Craig.
Oh, yeah, he went down, Pat, but I don't think he went down all that hard. And luckily, he probably didn't re-injure that foot of his that he hurt here in round 3.
Goody struggling to pick up that Honda 600. He's got it upright, but I don't think he's going to try to continue. There is the new 3rd place rider, number 99, John Ramsey from Nova Scotia. Ramsey perhaps a little more used to these wet track conditions. There is Duhamel, your leader, followed by Tommy Douglas, and Douglas has closed up the margin.
And there's John Ramsey. He's a Nova Scotia rider, and he's used to riding in wet conditions, but he just hasn't been able to come to grips with this racetrack today yet, Pat.
Ramsey taking a quick check over his shoulder, looking for the 4th place rider, Steve Dick, number 101, who is well back of these 2 riders who continue to battle for the lead. Duhamel, 97, Douglas, number 2, and there is Eddie Brunet, number 12. Brunet has crashed at the end of the back straightaway in precisely the same spot that Mercier crashed earlier. Here's Douglas up to the outside of Duhamel through Allen's Corner. Tommy Douglas really putting the pressure on Miguel Duhamel, and Duhamel goes down. Duhamel crashes. Douglas slows his machine up. He avoids hitting Duhamel, and now Tommy will continue. Duhamel gets right back on his machine, and he will continue to the roar of the crowd here in the capacity-filled grandstand at Shannonville. So the 2 riders almost came together. The blue and white last lap flag is out.
Pat, I think somebody's dropped oil or something on the track, because there's been a lot of riders go down in the last couple of minutes, and the track seems very, very, very slippery.
While Tommy Douglas, less than a lap to go. There's 101 Steve Dick. He's pointing down to his machine or the racetrack. There's definitely a problem there with probably Dick's machine. He was pointing down as though something was going amiss aboard that Suzuki. But for the moment, Tommy Douglas makes the quick check over the left shoulder. He's got some room, and here's Buddie. He has remounted and has made his way back to the start-finish line, but it looks like Gary will park it here for the afternoon. Less than a lap to go. Tommy Douglas off the end of the back straightaway aboard that Yamaha. He lifts the visor on the helmet. Visibility has been a problem throughout this race, but Douglas just a couple of corners to go to win this final Pro 750 Production Championship event here at Shannonville Motorsport Park. Douglas brings it out of that final right-hand turn where Duhamel crashed on that previous lap. Here's Douglas. He'll be very cautious as he comes on the front straightaway. Tommy Douglas brings this Yamaha up across the line. He takes the checkered flag for the win, and there you can see just how slippery it is on the front straightaway, Craig.
Oh, for sure, Pat, it's slippery. You can see Miguel Duhamel as he takes second spot, sliding all over the road. And in third is Sydney, Nova Scotia's John Ramsey, then Crevier, Cooper, Steve Dick in sixth, Royer, Hardy, Murphy, Grummet, and McDonald. And that's the lineup, and we'll be back with more from Shannonville in just a moment. Superbike Challenge, I'm Craig Hill along with Pat Gonzalez. And before we get to our feature, the Superbike Championship, here's Pat with highlights of the Formula 2 event that took place earlier today.
The race featured number 73, Steve Crevier, along with 49, Canadian champion John Cornwell, and Italian star Stefano Carracci, who was making his second visit to Canada. Cornwell, starting from the back of the grid, couldn't catch number 75, Carracci, who opened up an insurmountable lead. When Steve Crevier crashed on turn number 2, it was no contest for the Italian 250 Grand Prix star on his Team Ciampini Honda 250. However, a war developed for second place between Cornwell and Keith Jackson on his aging Honda motocrosser turned road racer. The slippery conditions were the great equalizer as far as horsepower was concerned. But Cornwell eventually pulled away to take second place on his Spondon Rotax. Jackson would finish in third.
So on the presentation stand, it was a champagne affair for these three riders. Now here's Pat on the grid for our Superbike Championship feature.
The Superbikes are rolling up to the starting grid for the start of the race that will decide the #1 plate and Canadian Superbike Championship. Here's Craig Hill with the starting grid.
And there are the top four riders who've worked so hard all year long for this last chance to win the Castrol National Superbike Championship.
On the pole, Gary Goodfellow, who won the qualifier in the dry here yesterday. Steve Dick alongside. All eyes focused on the lights. There's Tommy Douglas, number 2. 24, McMurder, and the field away. Douglas almost stalling his machine on the start. They charge into turn 1, and from the Sony Handycam on board Tommy Douglas's machine, you can see just how treacherous the conditions are here off the start. They move up onto the first straightaway as they head up to turn number 2 at the front. McMurder, 24, on the Rothmans Honda machine leads.
Well, the conditions are bad, Pat, but you know, it's not quite so bad for the riders out there as you might think. As a matter of fact, I think it's a little harder for the spectators to see the riders. You got to remember, these guys are concentrating on their entry and their exit points on the corners, and they're looking just a short distance in front of them, so it's very important that they stay out of the puddles.
McMurder, 24, by about 5 or 6 bike lengths. Duhamel pushing the Kawasaki very hard here in the opening lap. He'll close it up as they come through turn 6. That, of course, was the corner where McMurder crashed here during round number 3, so perhaps a little bit more cautious through there for the first time. There is number 9, Paul McMillan, who's having a good run, and right behind him, 101, Steve Dick. Dick not getting off to a particularly good start. Neither did Tommy Douglas, number 2, but both of those riders trying to move up. McMurder, 24, your leaders. They come into the hairpin for the first time. 97, Duhamel in second. Number 1, Mercier right there in third. Then it's 11, Gary Goodfellow, followed by number 9, Paul McMillan. Again, you're on board the Yamaha 750 of Tommy Douglas as he comes up on number 62. That is Derek Medaglia on the Suzuki. They're on the back straightaway. Douglas trying to chase down Medaglia. There you can see the rooster tails coming off the rear tire on Medaglia's machine. 24, McMurder leading. Duhamel in second, followed by Mercier. Then it is 11, Goodfellow, and then Paul McMillan, number 9. McMillan known for his very, very strong riding in the wet. through Allen's corner for the first time. It is 24 McMurder. If he can win it, regardless of where any of the other riders finish here this afternoon, he will take the championship. 97, Duhamel, perhaps will play the role of spoiler here this afternoon. And there is 106, Clyde McDonald, the Nova Scotia rider, has retired here early. Duhamel all over McMurder as they run it up through that right-hander. It is Duhamel really putting the pressure on. Duhamel goes inside into the carousel to take over the lead. Miguel Duhamel has taken the lead away from 24 McMurder. Number 1, Mercier, now in third, and he starts to mount a challenge for that second place position. Mercier to within a bike length of McMurder. It is McMurder on the Honda. Mercier, the defending champion, on the Suzuki. He goes up to the outside of McMurder through turn 6, and Mercier right up alongside. They're wheel to wheel, and Mercier moves through in a second. It's Duhamel leading, Mercier in second, 24. McMurder back there in the third place spot. Gary Goodfellow, number 11, running fourth, and Paul McMillan is fifth. Again, McMurder will be watching very closely to see where Steve Dick is running on the racetrack. There's Tommy Douglas, I believe. He now moves up on Steve Dick. He'll move around him up to the outside. Tommy Douglas challenging Steve Dick, one of the championship hopefuls, for that position as Douglas continues to march to the front after getting off to a very, very bad start. Miguel Duhamel, 97, followed by Mercier, then 24, McMurder, and oh, McMurder has crashed! McMurder crashes coming out of Allen's corner. He goes for a tumble. Goodfellow has moved into third, McMillan a fourth. McMurder trying to get that motorcycle restarted. His championship hopes could have ended right here in turn 15 at Shannonville.
Oh, Pat, I think he just grabbed a little bit too much front brake there, and he high-sided the machine. Although it could be still slippery in there, we don't know that. But he's getting a little help and getting the bike started here from an official, and that puts him back in the race. But we all know he's got to finish someplace in the top 10, because if he doesn't finish this race, he's right out of it.
While McMurder back on that Rothmans Honda machine, he's going to have to try to get up through the field right now. He's well outside the top 10 at the moment. There's 97, Duhamel, your leader, followed by Mercier.
And that's Steve Dick, number 101, who now has the best chance at winning the championship. I asked him earlier if he felt confident.
Oh, yeah. You know, we've worked out all the possibilities, and, you know, Goodfellow won the heat race. So now if he wins the final, which, you know, is quite possible, I have to get second or third, and Ruben has to be one position behind me, and then we'll be tied for the in the points. But because I have better finishes than him, I'll get the win.
Well, McMurder's crash has really turned this championship battle into a scramble. There's the fifth place rider, 75, Stefano Caracci, followed by 315, Mike Griffiths. Then it is Tommy Douglas, and then number 101, Steve Dick, who runs back in the 8th place spot, and moving up into 9th, just behind Steve Dick, is Ruben McMurder, number 24. This is the 5th place battle. There you can see Caracci, followed by Griffiths. Then number 2, Tommy Douglas, who runs in the 7th place spot. Steve Dick, number 101, is 8th, and there is the number 24 machine of McMurder, who is back in 9th. If McMurder finishes 9th, Goodfellow holds on for 3rd. The championship would go to Goodfellow, number 11, as he continues to run back in that 3rd place position aboard the Don Knit machine. So McMurder has to get up at least into 8th.
There's the rookie leader, Duhamel. I asked him if he'd gained the respect of the other veterans.
At the beginning of the season, I was a rookie crazy. For a couple of guys, they thought I didn't know what I was doing, so I was just passing them and dicing with them most of the time. And I think it just took them a bit of time to adapt. I guess it was a shock, you know, and also you got to imagine if a rookie would come up to me next year and dice with me, it would be, you know, I would say, oh, you're not doing this right. And at the beginning of the season, not a lot of respect. Now I think I'm getting a lot of respect. Lots of people congratulating me on race and less people complaining about stuff.
Ruben McMurder, number 24, challenging Steve Dick. McMurder on the inside will take over that 8th place position. So McMurder, who crashed just a few laps ago, has battled back to put himself in a position where he could win the championship. There are your top 5. Caracci having a good run in 5th, and your new 8th place rider, McMurder. We'll be back with more from Shannonville in a moment.
Welcome back to the conclusion of the Pepsi Superbike Challenge presented by Castro Canada. I'm Craig Hill along with Pat Gonzalez, and that's number 24, Ruben McMurder, on the way to his first National Superbike Championship.
McMurder just passed Caracci there. McMurder now into 7th, and there's Steve Dick, number 101. He has parked his Suzuki. Miguel Duhamel, number 97, comes out of the final turn and won. Michel Mercier giving him all he can handle. The blue and white last lap flag is out. There's the third place rider, number 11, Gary Goodfellow, on that beautiful Don Net Sugano Honda RC30. Gary continues to run back in third. He's got less than a lap to go. You're on board Tommy Douglas's Yamaha as he challenges now the fifth place rider, 315, Mike Griffiths. There you can see just how hard Griffiths is riding, leading that Suzuki right over. Douglas pulls up alongside, and he will move into the fifth place position now with less than a lap to go. Miguel Duhamel, number 97, brings his Kawasaki into the hairpin for the final time. Won. Michel Mercier, the defending champion. He would dearly love to win the race here at Shannonville. He knows he must surrender that number 1 plate, but he is battling right down to the final lap. Off the end of the back straightaway, Duhamel still leading the Suzuki of Michel Mercier as they lean it right into the chicane now on this last lap. Number 24, McMurder, has slid back into 8, but that'll give him the championship. There's the checkered flag as Duhamel wins it. Mercier will finish in second. A couple of lap riders in there, 49, Mike Walsh, and 300, Martin Ducharme. There's 11, Gary Goodfellow. Checkered flag for third. It'll be number 9, McMillan in fourth. Number 2, Tommy Douglas will finish back in the fifth place spot. And here's McMurder. He's back in 8th, but that'll be good enough for the championship. McMurder celebrating as he takes the checkered flag.
The final standings with the newest Duhamel family star taking his first National Superbike win, and I'm sure his father, who was a past Canadian champion, is very proud. Ruben McMurder finishes 8th with just enough national points to win the number 1 plate for 1988.
Ruben getting a big hug from his father, Earl, who's been with him since his early years in road racing. It is a championship that certainly was well-deserved. There is the winner, Miguel Duhamel, receiving the trophy from Jeff Weiss of Pepsi Canada, Gary Goodfellow, and Michel Mercier.
And tell me this guy isn't happy. He's had his ups and downs all season long, but with support from his girlfriend Sylvia, manager Mike Dillon, and the whole Rothmans Honda team, he's earned the 88 number 1 plate and the $25,000 bonus check from Castrol.
Our congratulations to all the riders who have made this one of the safest and most competitive series. Our thanks to Colin Fraser and the race organization, and we look forward to 1989 and the Castrol National Superbike Championships. On behalf of Craig Hill, I'm Pat Gonzalez. See you next season for more of the best in televised motorcycle road racing. Champion